Good evening. Patrick here from Eight Questions with. Have Cheetah will view. It's Thursday. It's the last show of the week. And we will be talking to actress and screenwriter Molly Souza. And she'll be here hopefully about 15, 20 minutes because I'm only saying that because I had a major brain fart and I didn't send her the link till like 20 minutes ago, which is I never do that. I'm always like way ahead of the curve. So hopefully she didn't think I. Hopefully she didn't think I jumped out of the plane without a parachute and didn't send her the link. But she'll be here. She'll be here about 15, 20 minutes. So I'm glad you guys are here. Having an outstanding week so far here on the show. One of our best. Uh, just amazing show. Amazing shows. We've really torn it up thanks to you guys. I mean, what a way to start the month, right? So we had Ken from Mid-Level Media come on in and crushed it. And then you guys came in yesterday, not once, but twice. And you guys really supported the show really strong with our guest, Harry from Pick Surprise, and Kevin Chaos from Haunted by Horror. So, wow, just amazing support. I appreciate it so much. Hey, Echo, how are you, sir? How are you? Good. Yeah, I've been keeping up abreast about what's going on. Um, I think they're gonna I think they're gonna talk about what's been going on the last couple of days, last couple of 2, 3 days. I have a feeling they're gonna cover that in the midnight hour. That'll be an interesting show, which will follow this one. The midnight hour will be on Hobbs Horror Channel after we're done here. Doing good, doing good. We have a very talented actress and screenwriter coming up tonight, and Molly Souza. And what's really fun about this is like when her and I agreed to do the show, it's like, hey, going to come on and hang out, and says, yeah, let's do that. And so when I looked to see about her movie that she's getting ready to produce to make called Late Checkout, I looked on it and lo and behold, actually it's filming. The movie's filming. I shouldn't say pre-production; it's filming. Um, I looked at it and I discovered that uh, she has Bailey Herrington in there. Hey Jamie, how are you? I came by yesterday briefly. I had a show yesterday afternoon about during your time. I'm sorry I couldn't make it, but I did pop up and say hello. Um, and I will do a rewatch, a replay. So that I will do. We are. Well, I hope I'm doing well. I forgot to send my link to my guest until about 20 minutes ago. So hopefully she's not thinking that I'm a waffler. It's the first time I've ever done such a thing. Um, yeah, you can't do a video if you don't have if you don't have a link to the show. Um, so yeah, that was fun yesterday. We had Harry from Pick Surprise was on. Really nice young man. And then Kevin Chaos from Haunted by Horror. As you could tell, very articulate, very composed, really nice man as well. Loves his horror. Um, it was really fun talking to him. I really enjoyed that a lot. But we got more guests coming. Oh, we got guests coming. And I will do that because I got to do the calendar. And it's a busy calendar too. Let me tell you, we're about ready. That next week is going to be insanely busy for us. Because on Sunday we are back. We are back here doing a show with actor Kyle Rappaport, who is one of the stars of the new fun movie Sharkula. Hey, Jaden, how are you? He's one of the stars of the show Dracula, Sharkula. Sorry, uh, and yes, you heard that right, Sharkula. So it's a shark version of Dracula. You know, that's all us. We're all about that. That will be at 5 o'clock, and then at 9 o'clock we will be back. We will be back here for our ranking show of Friday the 13th. But before that happens, we're going to watch and discuss Friday the 13th, 2009. And then with Sean Blue Digital and Jennifer Tochi from the Midnight Hour, they're going to be coming in and they're going to be coming up and hanging out with us. In fact, I got to give Sean a call tonight to let him know that we're doing that still. Um, and then on the 6th of June, on D-Day, I don't know if I should make that joke, right? But I will. So on D-Day, June 6th, I'll be invading an American Werewolf in New Jersey's channel. Um, as he's going to talk, we're going to talk about our 5 guilty pleasure movies. So I brought in 6. I hope that they're all covered because they're fun. Hi, Katie. And then, are you Katie? Is the witching hour happening this Saturday? Are you guys going? Are you guys going up? Oh, speaking of Saturday, oh hell, let me do this too. So speaking of Saturday, so on House of Horrors, our friend Steven, House of Horrors, he is hosting actor Tom Matthews. Him and Miss Boomstick are hosting Tom Matthews on the House of Horrors with Tom Matthews from the Friday the 13th film Jason Lives. He plays the adult Tommy Jarvis, and he's going to be a guest on House of Horrors this Saturday at 7 p.m. Not very much time to promote that, so if you guys want to do that for me, that would be awesome. I'll be posting that in my community tab too. Uh, so, uh, so I definitely want to bring that to attention. That's a big interview for those guys, and that's been consistent with those. Yes, Return of the Living Dead. That's right. He'll be there. Yep, he's there Saturday at 7 p.m. on House of Horrors. That's a big booking. That's a big booking. I think that's going to be a really fun show, and I hope we as a community will come out and support that. Support Steven and Miss Boomstick. So that would be very cool if we could do that. And then of course, Katie doesn't know if the witching hour is going to be on or not. So I don't know about that either. So if it is, then Katie, will you be going up at 8 o'clock or 8:30 if you have a show? We'll find out right now. And of course, again, like I mentioned, oh, and don't forget after our shows here on Tuesday, to bounce over to my buddy Al's show on Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock for Tuesday Tuesdays. Okay, 8:30. Okay, that's a good time, Katie. Thank you so much for that. That'll be awesome because that will leave us have an opening to support Steven from 7 to 8:30. See, that's the kind of that's the kind of things that I really love about our community is when we all come together to work together for a common good. Um, Hey, Aaron P. I haven't seen you in a minute. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. I do believe you'll enjoy our guest tonight, Molly Souza. Yep, and there we go. Just got word from Steven about the show, 7 o'clock on Saturday. Yeah, that's really cool, Katie, that you guys are going to do that because that'll give a chance for everybody to show up for Tom Matthews. And Stevens and Chrissy are going to need a little bit of help too because it's such a late booking. He just now confirmed it. So I mean, he had it on the books, but he just now locked it down. So he's only got 2 days, 2.5 days to promote the show. So anything that we could do to do that, we'll do that. I wish we would have had another couple of weeks because I would have really pumped that show out for him. And of course, like I said, we're going to support our good buddy Al from who's my co-pilot on the Midnight Society, which I just mentioned that we're covering our last Friday the 13th movie, and then we're doing some rankings on Sunday night at 9 p.m. I have so much to do, so much to say, so many places to go. I feel like Willy Wonka. So, uh, Tuesday, Al does To Be Tuesdays, and so we all need to go over there and support him at 10 o'clock. And we'll be talking about. I think we're going to be talking. I'm sure we will be touching upon this upon the midnight hour tonight on Hobbs's Horror. I'm sure we'll be touching about what's been going on this week. Oh hell yes! Thank God, there's a God. Thank you. Okay, so Molly got my link. So let's go get her, shall we?
Hi.
Hi, Molly.
Nice to see you.
I bet you were thinking, where the hell is he? Yes, I had a feeling about that, and I don't
I
blame you.
was I was a little nervous. I've been stood up before, but I'm glad
Oh,
to see you here.
oh my God, I would be so embarrassed. I mean, I'm going like, trust me, we've done 150 of these. We know what we're doing, and then it's like,
Well,
well, and then all of a sudden I'm sitting there going like, oh shit, I forgot to send them the link.
the
Well,
one last step. Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
gotta have that for them to make it work. Molly looks like a gamer. See, I don't
Oh,
know. Are you a video gamer?
I am well, yes, I am a gamer, but I'm honestly more of an old school like Dungeons and Dragons gamer. If you're referring to my sweet headphones, cute. These were a gift, but I do use them for gaming. I don't do a lot of PC gaming right now. I'm playing my way through Skyrim, which is a super old, not super old. It's like 2014, almost
Oh
a
my gosh,
decade old
is
now.
that yeah, is that considered ancient?
Well, in terms of technology, I think so. We moved so quickly with video games, and now there's like, have you done any of the virtual reality gaming, Patrick?
I want to do that. I can't
Oh
do
my gosh.
I can't do this stuff, right? I mean, I can do those on only two games, football and baseball. I can do that with the controllers, but
Okay, sure.
I want virtual gaming.
I
I can't
had
wait for that.
I had one of those for a while, and that was definitely a peak gaming experience. It was insane. It felt like I was in the future. But right now, I'm playing through Skyrim. I'm playing an active Dungeons and Dragons campaign. I just finished Red Dead Redemption 2. So, yeah, I guess I kind of am a gamer. Is that embarrassing? Let's keep that between everyone here. Don't tell anyone else about that. Anyone who's here right
Oh,
now.
okay. Aaron, or you got. We're swearing you to silence, sir. Don't tell anybody that she's a gamer. Wow. Hey, Steven. Hi, Sean. Let's see. Let's see. RDR2 is awesome from Aaron. I saw one other. Oh, hi, Prospect Theater Project, and he's saying hello, Molly. Awesome, awesome.
Hi.
Good to see fresh faces here. Glad to hear. Glad to see you. Yeah. So, and then I got here after I realized that I was like sitting here going, please let her find the link. Let her find the link. And then I'm throwing out like normally I come up 15 minutes early to talk about the guest and to hype up the crowd, which I don't need to do that because they're already doing that already. And then I'm running around trying to read off all my notes, and it's just like I'm organized, but I'm chaotic at the same time. I don't know where
It's
that came
like
from.
it's like you planned me a party and then forgot to invite me until the last minute. It's
Or
fine. It was exciting.
or better yet, plan a party, but forget the food.
Oh
You know, it's
yeah.
like it's like oh well, but we're here now. We're gonna have fun. The chat's gonna be popping, so I'm glad to see that. Um, let's see. Sean's making fun of me. If that Mets hat really ruins the stream, that's because he's a Phillies baseball fanatic. Uh, I would wear the Yankees, but I was trying to be nice to everybody. Um, so Molly, how are you after all
I'm
this? How
I'm
was it?
super well. It is a beautiful. I'm in Atlanta, and it was a beautiful day today. We got sunshine. We got a little thunderstorm action, and I got to paint and game, and now I get to hang out with you. So it's been a super good day. And I think I'm still riding the high of filming from late checkout, which always like being on a
I'm,
good set will just keep you in a good mood for
yes, it will.
weeks and weeks. Yeah.
I'm so excited for late checkout. What a great cast you assembled.
Oh,
I
seriously.
I can rest assured. I can tell you. I can vouch for one of those actresses being kick ass, and that's Bailey Herrington.
Miss
So
Bailey, yes.
Bailey, she's
She's
so cute.
yeah, she is so cool, and she is such a like a mighty force and such a like I love people like that. She comes in a very like petite, blonde, perfect package, and then she just has this like fucking gut some gut punch talent. Can I swear? I'm so
Yes,
sorry.
yes,
Okay.
you can fucking swear.
I'm a little bit like a cowboy. My bad. I don't mean to offend anyone.
No,
Yeah,
nobody offended here.
Bailey is my bread and butter. I love that girl, and she did such an amazing job. She was our lead in like checkout. She was, like I said, just a force to be reckoned with. Really amazing.
And if it makes you feel any better, to show you just exactly how tiny this world is, right? So you and
Mm-hmm.
I were talking about this. We're going like, "Oh my gosh, you got Bailey Harrington on your movie," and you're going, "Oh my stars, yeah!" And it's like such a small world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh yeah,
then I'm looking over here at the movie that you're working on, the house that eats flesh,
Angel.
and then Angel, and then Angel was here, and I'm like, you know what? I must be on the right path. I'm getting all the right. So
Angel is awesome. I've been super blessed to work with incredible women. Like just all of them are so multi-talented. Like they all have, they're like actresses and special effects and doing their own stunts and podcasting and just these multifaceted women. It's super awesome. It's one of
uh,
my favorite things about this industry is like getting to meet
yeah,
rad
you
people.
know what? Now we touched upon this, and we're not going to talk about it as,
Mm.
and I agree. But I will just mention this: isn't it something to go from a bad situation to a professional one?
Oh my goodness. Yes. The funny thing about those bad situations, and this applies really to, it can be in any field, is sometimes you don't even know how bad it is until you get to that spot of genuine goodness, where things are how they're supposed to be. And I just feel the last couple of projects I've been on, it's just one of those kismet situations where everyone is exactly where they're meant to be and everyone is just working really well together and producing something really fun. So it's yes, I will say that it is so much better than some other experiences I've had. Recently I've just come up in the world of karmic interactions and all I've had are beautiful experiences.
I'm so happy for you too, because I was sort of, I don't get that very often. I don't get that very often. Like people coming off a really bad experience like that, and it's like, I always want to go ahead and push it towards something a lot more positive. A lot, because sometimes the first time you walk onto a set too, right? Or even the first under five sets you walk onto,
Mhm.
you're brand new, you have optimism, you're excited to be there, you worked hard to get there, and everything else, and the last thing you need is to walk onto a toxic set. It's the
Yeah,
last thing, because it leaves a really bad taste in your mouth, and it makes me wonder, after we talked a little bit, like how many times have we lost a good actor or an actress or a crew director because they're within their first five sets they had that one toxic experience, and they say, you know
absolutely.
what, I don't need this aggravation. If this is what,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I definitely I struggled with that, having had bad experiences where as a young actress I was exploited, and I think that it really was a mind over matter circumstance where I kind of just had to say, I had a negative experience, but I'm not going to let that negative experience rule me. I'm not going to let it dampen my shine or take away from what I can perceive as my accomplishments. I'm not going to, let someone else's negativity cloud my journey, where I'm trying to go, what I'm trying to do. I just kind of hold out hope that good attracts good, right? At the end of the day, when we have negative experiences, we learn for the next time, and we figure out how to like root out the super cool people and like collect all of them around you and avoid all the baddies. It's a painful learning process. Damn it, but it's worth it.
Yeah, it is. I would encourage people to listen. You work that hard to get there. Don't let someone take your power. Don't give it to
Absolutely.
them. Don't give it to them.
Absolutely. Don't let someone else ruin something for you. Grow
Uh,
up and ruin it for yourself. Just kidding.
well, I'm glad to see that you came out the other side, and we will be visiting the other side in a few more minutes. But we got to go back to the beginning, because this is the one time you asked me about the questions, and I'm like, questions? We don't need all stinking questions. Well, the only preset question I ever asked any of my guests is, where were you born and raised at?
Oh, okay. So I was born and raised in the Central Valley of California, a town called Modesto, California, which I think we're only known for a couple of things. We have agriculture. George Lucas was born and raised there. I went to the high school that George Lucas went to. And Lacey Peterson was murdered there. If you remember that, like any
Oh
true
yeah.
crime fanatics, that was like a 2002, 2001 heavy hitter. Jeremy Renner's from Modesto. We have some things. Often described as a sleepy town, though I would argue with that. So I was raised in, like I said, kind of agricultural, kind of cityscape. My parents owned a little black box theater in Modesto, so that's how I got into doing theatrical acting endeavors and behind the scenes work as well. And then I went to college in San Francisco and spent a lot of time there. That was like another, I would say, I was also raised there, though it was, the latter half of raising when you're like 17 and above.
Um, it's funny you mentioned all that, because we're not that far apart, because I'm also a California boy. I was born in California, and I worked in San Jose for many years.
Okay,
Yeah, I
so
was there.
I'm in a grad school program right now out of San Jose State. I work,
Is that where you went to school at San Jose State?
I'm doing my grad school work at San Jose State right now.
Can you see the chat already?
Let me see. I don't. Yes. Are you Mr. Who's Mr.
Okay, okay. Here
Buns?
we go. Ready? Ready? Look at the
Okay.
chat. There you go. Uh, that's actually my favorite school.
Oh yeah. See, exactly. That's
Yeah,
part
yeah,
of.
yeah. I worked in San Jose. I worked downtown. I worked
Oh,
on First
cool.
on First Street, First in San Salvador.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Do you ever go downtown very much?
So I've only been to San Jose a handful of times. I go to their school, but it's an online school.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm
Oh yeah.
sorry.
I don't know. Have you ever been to Have you ever been to the campus yet? It's a beautiful campus.
Yeah, absolutely. All of the Bay campuses. Like I went to San Francisco State for my undergrad, and I loved that campus. It's
Oh,
such a treat to find kind of those little oases in the center of big cities.
it is.
I
It
love
is.
that.
Me too. San Francisco has a lot of let's see. Must be yeah, I think maybe so, yes. People are asking if you have a YouTube channel.
I don't. I don't YouTube, unfortunately.
See
I
that?
sometimes I rant on Instagram, but other than that, I
I think I could help out with that. But Bones we're just gonna try to we're going to try to promote you here. So I'm going to throw down your Instagram link down in the chat, and then I'll put
Thank
that
you.
in the description box as well.
I
Here it comes,
am
phone.
I am Molly with the bright red hair, which I feel like you can't really see because it's not very bright in here.
Uh, there you go. All right, sweet. Uh, yeah, okay. So Modesto, yeah, that's right by Stockton. And so, oh yeah, I've been to your area. There's a little town named Lodi that's a little bit north of Modesto.
I know Lodi.
I used to go
That's
boating.
that's a deep cut. No one's gonna know Lodi.
I
That's
know,
some real
right?
Central Valley shit. Yeah.
Yeah, we used to go. My family and I used to go boating every summer there, floating and fishing on the Sacramento River, on the
Oh
American.
God, float. Well, and the Sacramento River will chew you up and spit you out. That one is no. That's no joke. It's like the American, right? The
Yeah,
American
The
River.
American.
Yeah. I was floating down that once. If you're from the Central Valley, everyone there has floating horror stories. It was my Vietnam. We're floating and
What's
and
going on?
a dude friend was in front of me, and we went up. It was these rapids, and our raft went up and slammed back down right onto a piece of rebar that went up right in between his legs, bursting our boat. But it was just like, oh, an inch away from
Disaster.
completely impaling him.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah, the American River is rough too, because we lived in Carmichael in Sacramento, and we lived about a half a mile away from the American River. So we used to walk down there all the time to go fishing.
yeah,
In the river down there, and the river was just like, I mean, all you could do, you couldn't just sit there. You had to basically you had to fly fish almost because the water was so fast. And we used to
yeah.
go down there, and we used to actually go down there and look for lures, all the lures that people would lose. And you get like 20 or 30 of them. Then you go down to the little store, little bait, like a bait and tackle store, and you would sell them.
Sure.
You sell them. They sit there and you just go there, yeah, and they give you like $1 a piece for them or whatever. They turn around and mark them up themselves. But that's what we used to do during the summer. But the
It's
American River
funny,
was no
like
joke either.
it's those areas I think are always kind of described as they get like the sleepy little town moniker, right? Like earlier we brought up the Lacey Peterson case, which is one of the most known things about Modesto. They always, and it was nationwide, it was on the news. They
Yeah,
always describe Modesto as this sleepy little town, which I find to be a little inaccurate. That there are these small town things where like if you meet someone from Modesto, whether they are, you know, 15, 25, 35, 45, 55, 65, 75, so on and so forth, we'll all kind of have these threads of the Central Valley of your story of down by the river and your story of Main Town or the Main Street and cruising and car culture and all these little things. I think that kind of gives it that like it still feels like a small town because we all kind of have those stories, and that area is just blowing up. Like
yeah,
Modesto, I think has like almost 500,000 people in it now. It's like
yeah. They all got pushed. They all got pushed up. They got pushed up and over.
yeah, exactly. And everyone left the Bay Area. I left the Bay Area too, so
Oh,
I can't.
oh, yeah. I don't blame you. It was so expensive there. My dad lived in Vallejo, and so I went out there to after he passed away. I went up there to take care of his affairs, and it was really weird because I'm thinking, like we have to sell his house and whatnot, and I'm thinking, I told my sisters this house is. He was real close, but maybe say about a year away from becoming a full on hoarder. He was on that way, and we got there just right there. I'm sorry for. I hope this isn't boring everybody, but we got to be right there, real close. So we took clean up his house, and I look at my sister. And I'm looking at the neighborhood he's at and everything else. And we're like, man, we'll be lucky if you get $150,000 for this house. I said, you'll be lucky. and she laughed at me. She laughed at me. She says, "You
Yeah.
watch." I said, "You watch." I says, "You have no idea," and she was right. I had
Oh
no
yeah.
idea. The house sold,
It's
and I'm like, "There's just no way we got that. There's just no." But that's California. I mean,
yeah,
houses in San
the
Jose.
Bay Area in particular, like property up there is nuts. And I moved to another big city, but it's like much Atlanta's. I like Atlanta much more than I like San
Oh, I don't blame
Francisco.
you.
In
Yeah,
terms of like livability, comfortability,
sure.
it's and I don't even mind the heat very much. I'm kind of a lizard person.
Are you thinking about moving to Atlanta as soon as you graduate?
I live in Atlanta now.
Oh, okay. So you're still going to San Jose online? Oh, wow, that's
Yep.
so cool.
So my program, I'm in a library and information science program, and it's been online for a very long time. So with like 2020 and everything, which is when I started, I just wanted to do something I could like do
Sure.
from the comfort of my home, kind of at my own pace and work at the same time, do movies at the same time.
Now,
Oh,
when did you move to Atlanta?
about 2 months ago. That was a pretty recent move.
Okay. Okay. Wow. And you really love it.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Oh,
I'm in love.
I don't blame you. I mean, that's the new Hollywood anyway, right? I mean, there's so much going on in Atlanta right now. It's
You meet
amazing.
so many people who are in film and doing cool film stuff and working on these like dream projects. It's really really encouraging and awesome to see everyone out here doing it. And it's great to get some people and stuff. Even like I waitress and every other person I meet is in the industry. We can kind of talk and network. It's super cool.
Yeah. That's how it should be, right?
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
um, well, before so living in Modesto and whatnot. I mean, what was it like growing up there for you when you were there? Did what did you like to do besides going rafting?
Oh God.
Were you creative a creative person? Were you a
I feel
writer, dancer?
I um you know I was a little bit of a shithead when I was growing up. So I feel like I nurtured other parts of myself and it took me a little bit longer to come into my my creativity. So I've always done theater. That's always been an outlet for me. My parents owned a little black box theater in Modesto. So
Oh,
that's how they met. That's been something that's ingrained in me since like literally the day I was born. So I've always done stuff in that regard. And then my parents owning and operating a theater, I got to do a bunch of behind the scenes stuff. So I've been like painting and hanging lights and doing stage crew stuff forever. But in terms of kind of being my own master and pursuing things that I want to do and creating art that I want to create, I really feel like I came into that later, like when I was in college, living in San Francisco and surrounded by other artists. Modesto is it's a weird place. There's a lot of um,
I guess it would be like almost like equating to what they say about a top-notch chef. It's like the last place they ever want to eat is, the last thing they want to do is go out to eat somewhere because,
sure,
or eat at the place they're at because, they don't want to ruin it. I mean, so
sure.
I get that, it's like you had the experience that, and I guess it took you a little while to understand exactly what you had, to
Oh,
understand.
absolutely, absolutely. And there was like, I mean, growing up is rough for everyone on different levels. I feel like I definitely California has a huge like drug and partying culture, and I was definitely into doing that when I was a teenager and was really rowdy in that regard, which gave me a whole lot of life experience, the value of which is debatable. Um, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade it. I do sometimes wish I would have known that I had this outlet, this such a tangible thing to be able to do, writing and painting and acting. It's such a rewarding experience. And I wish I would have found it sooner, but I don't regret, you know, how it all fell together is how it all fell together, man.
Well, but it's all about growing up. I mean, everybody has their wild oats story, everybody has their, to get out there and sow their oats a little bit. But it really comes to just exactly how deep that goes. It's like, if you want to go out there and have a couple of beers with your friends or smoke a J or something like that, I don't know, I mean, 95% of the kids, 9% of the kids, they probably have all done that. I mean, I necessarily didn't drink or smoke myself, but I knew friends who did, and we partied and whatnot. It all depends. It's like how far do you go into that hole? I've also
Well,
seen.
yeah, and when you're from a small town, sometimes the world itself can feel so small, and it can feel like I don't want to say that that's the only option, but the world can feel so small that that is like a rewarding choice that you can make. It's just like partying it up all the time. I think it took a while for me to understand that what I really want out of life is kind of beyond that level and is a little more heady.
Our chat is popping here. I'm gonna catch up with it a little bit here. I've had to do that this week. This is really fun. Let's see. Hi, Brene. How are you? You're right. San Francisco is very beautiful. It's the people who ruin it. You know what? I can't argue with that. Even being from California as I am, I can't. Uh, you know,
People from San Francisco are such dicks. And I
yeah,
feel like people always think like, oh, you're from California, like everyone's stoned there all the time, it must be so nice. No,
no,
absolutely not. They are
no.
very like they get off on being withholding and it's just not enjoyable to them. Like you get your friend group and those are cool people, but it's usually like I don't know that I had to leave San Francisco because I just eventually I felt like I was so closed off. There's so much sadness and
Yeah,
tragedy there that you kind of spend your time building the shell around you so you don't have to see it or let it permeate into your psyche. And then you kind of cut yourself off to the world. So when people come up and talk to you, your immediate response is like, hey man, get the fuck away from me. I don't have a dollar. I don't and you're not even listening to what they're saying. You're not even engaging the people around you. So my partner and I in 2020, we moved from the Tenderloin, San Francisco to the middle of Utah, where everyone wants to talk to you all the time. And that was it was a very black and white transition there to move from San Francisco to rural Utah. But
see,
I,
I moved to Michigan in '99, so I lived in San Jose for about 17 years or so, 16 years. And I'll be honest with you, Molly, I didn't really, as much as I was there, I really didn't go up to San Francisco a lot. The only time I ever went up there is to see bands. That was my thing.
sure.
If there were bands playing, or I had a band I was managing or working with, I did that. But as far as going up there to hanging out, hey, let's go to Haight Ashbury. Nah, yeah, no, that's not for me. I wasn't really comfortable with that. Um, yeah. I mean, it used to be pretty nice. San Francisco used to be really nice, and the people there were really nice too. But they all got chased out. All the creative, all the artists, all the singers, they all got pushed out by the high cost of living. They can't stay there.
Yes.
They can't stay there. Then all the clubs that were there, they got all pushed out or shut down. There's only like a
Yeah.
handful left. It's like all the culture got squeezed out of it. They squeezed all the
Absolutely.
culture. Now it's all tech. Okay, I guess that's what. I got the latest gaming system or whatever.
So I ran with like a lovely crew of artists in San Francisco who's still very much keeping like the beat generation mentality alive. A number of beautiful and slightly problematic artists, as one might imagine. Um, I miss that part of it, definitely. I've yet to find my community of artists here, but as I said, the, Atlanta is ripe with a community of artists, so I'm sure that will come eventually.
So you got out of there. I mean, well, no, your parents had their theater, so you were theater generally. Is it safe to say that that theater generally sort of helped you just grow up and mature a little bit? You know, after you did you gained some experience, you had some fun as a teenager, but then once you went to college, that theater experience really helped you, didn't it?
Well, theater definitely. I mean, it's dramaturgy itself is a very vulnerable practice that involves lots of reflection, right? Internal reflection. So I definitely think that it prepared me to deal with some of the harsher things of life and the more dramatic parts of life, and just giving me that interest in exploring narratives in that way. I've always loved to like write little stories and you know telling stories in general. I'm a very animated storyteller, but to tell other people's stories through acting is super rewarding and super fun. And yeah, kind of it gives you like insight into how to deal with your own life and how other people might be feeling. It's a big
Were,
lesson
were
in
you
empathy.
were you a writer from the beginning? I mean, is that the very first thing you did creatively, though? That was yours, was to write?
Uh, no, definitely acting was like the first thing that I got into, was just acting, and then I've written forever, but not in a more for a personal way, more in a personal way, more in a for me sense, not in like publishing it. Really, I ran with a bunch of poets in San Francisco, so oftentimes we were on like street corners, fringe style, reading poetry, but producing like a work. My first thing that I helped produce, I co-wrote and put out into the world was Late Checkout.
Did you you say you wrote poetry? Did you ever do any readings when you were younger?
Oh yeah, we definitely like that's
Awesome.
my number one hobby in San Francisco is like our poetry reading nights, definitely.
Now
And I'm an insufferable theater kid. Of course, I was into slam poetry. Like, those two things go hand in hand,
yeah,
Patrick.
yeah. No, yeah. There used to be a ton of places in the city. Hi, Kristen. How are you? Welcome, welcome. Wow,
Um,
this is so much fun. Thank you guys all for coming. I really appreciate it. Sean mentions let's see, let's see. Some of the comments say I've always let's see. It can't be worse than people here in New York City if you want nasty. Yeah, that would be interesting clash. Hello, Kubrick. Glad you're here. Glad you're listening. Sean, California's like another planet. Can't tell who's a they live alien or what. Yeah, anybody in San Francisco proper, they're an alien because they're the only ones that can afford it. Let's see. Brene says that is true. You get all sorts of people, colors of people, not just one color type, etc. It used to be San Francisco used to be celebrated for its diversity. It isn't there now because again, can't afford it. Um, so let's see. Kristen's here. Hi again. And she's saying hi, Molly. And then our good friend Rick is
Hello.
here. Our good friend Rick from Underground Sub Rosa, former guest, also here saying
Hi,
hi.
Rick.
And here's our guest from last night. He's here. Hi, Kevin. How are you? Wow, this is so much fun. So okay. So now let's talk about your first acting experience. How old are you? How old were you when you acted, and what did you do?
Well, it's weird because acting was my family business, so it's hard to say. It's probably like probably at some point when I was like 4, being sent on stage as like a young beggar child was like the first time on stage. I did Oh, and I'm gonna mess this timeline up. I'm gonna mess it up. I feel like
You're human. Go. It's all right.
one of the first things I did was um the Moliere play Tartuffe, which is about the devil coming to your family for a visit loosely, which has actually kind of a lot of horror movie themes. Come to think of it, that's probably where my love for that all started.
Now, did your folks when they produce plays, did they go dark? Did they do some heavy plays?
Oh,
And
absolutely. That's the funny. So actually, Prospect Theater Project has commented a couple of times. I don't know who runs that account, but that is the theater. Um, that I'm referring to so lovingly as my hometown theater, my first ever creative outlet. Um, and I think their motto that was given to them by some local newspaper was that they're the little theater with an edge. So you'll never catch Prospect doing fluffy theatrical pieces like Grease or what have you that are very very enjoyable, um, but a little bit uh, made for the mass market, I guess. I think they always kind of choose to do plays that are a little bit off the beaten path, which I like. I always want that in a script. I don't want the usual thing. I don't want predictable. I want unpredictability and I want flipping the script. And that's like a really fun thing about horror is that horror scripts can just be really, really, really normal and then just like balls to the wall. Someone's getting like disemboweled, just like all of a sudden, whatever you think, oh, they're having a nice little weekend. And then you're like, no, they're fucking not.
you're right. I mean, you're right because to me, I mean, I know a lot of people like it's funny too because this is the difference between major league horror, so to speak, versus indie
Sure.
horror. A lot of the mainstream horror films, um, a lot of those, they're a lot of them are done by the numbers, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
just like, okay, this has to happen during this scene, this happens during this scene, and this is what happens in the third scene. The first, third, second, and it's sort of predictable. It's like
Oh, absolutely.
there's no surprise. And this is one of the things too. When I talk about horror, it's like I love reality based horror or supernatural horror because
Yes.
it's because you can go anywhere and go anywhere you want to go, you can take it. There's some horror that's like that's they just it's too confined, it's too like, okay, we got to make sure that we get like we did a dive on the Friday the 13th, and what we learned was like a lot of this, there's a lot of studio input. They would come up to the director and sit there and say, listen, we need to have 16 kills, we need to have 14 kills, we need to have
Sure.
and it's just like, well, why can't and there's no freedom there, necessarily. There's no
Yeah.
I like the idea of my horror being unpredictable. I'd like to be surprised. I like sudden surprises. I'm not talking about just jump scares, but I like the surprises in a script. And I think indie filmmakers such as yourself, screenwriters such as yourself, have a lot more freedom to do that. You can experiment a
Oh,
little bit more.
absolutely. I mean, and you would be so, most people I think would be so surprised to see if they got to see the creator's rendition of these big studio movies. Often, sometimes we'll get spoiled and we'll get the little like director's cut of what they actually wanted the movie to be. And then when you compare that to what the studio puts out, they're often like vastly different. So it's so cool to have the independence and the power built on independence just to do what you want. Whatever you want to see in the movie, it's up to the indie filmmaker. Um, I it's awesome. I'm very like I like to have control over creative projects that I'm doing. I like to really bring visions to life and stay true to the vision. Um, and being in indie horror and being able, like in this last project with Josh Graves, being able to like help write it and help, direct it and be a part of it in the acting ensemble. It's just so awesome to have my hands in all of these different parts of making it happen.
Now I have to ask one question because I'm sure you've been asked this before, but I'll ask it anyway. So did you have to audition for your parts in the theater with your parents, or did they just write parts in there for you?
No, I auditioned. I mean, it wasn't always. Uh, my dad is an artistic director, so that means he gets to like choose the plays, but it doesn't mean he directs every play. And oftentimes, for any creative project, it's at the director's discretion who auditions and who doesn't audition. So I've definitely auditioned for theatrical roles before.
He
But
was
I've
taking
also gotten like I've never auditioned for Josh. Like Josh saw what I could do and took that for what it
and
was
that's,
and
yeah,
didn't
sometimes
need
that
it.
happens. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes that happens. Like especially some of the screenwriters, they'll sit there, or directors who write a part and they say, I wrote it for this person, in mind, and there's that person right there. You're not going to make that person audition. You're going to sit there, I wrote this part with that person, so let me just go ahead and hand it on over. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, I get it. So what's some of the fun things what's three things you took from the theater experience before you hit
Oh,
the movie set?
okay. Ooh, that's a great question. Well, theater and film, while they involve many of the same parts, are really like different fucking beasts. But from the theater, it's if the hat fits, wear it. I'm not above, if I'm assistant director and actress, I have no problem like holding booms and running to get water for people and doing production assistant things and doing sound operator things and just kind of filling in where you're needed, leaving the pride at home, uh, just coming in as like a humble and helpful person always goes a long way. And that kind of goes hand in hand with the second thing, which I would say is always attitude is everything. Film is a kind of unique industry because we don't answer to people in the same way that like office jobs do. So you will find that some people in film will fucking scream at you. Like, that's one of the unpleasant things about being on a film set. Like you'll be up for 19 hours and people get upset and weird and immature and things bubble up and it's not a fun experience. So always bringing like a positive attitude, a can-do attitude, as cheesy as it sounds. That really, the show must go on is what you say in theater. We're
Right.
going to have to make it work somehow. So always kind of having that we can make it work attitude goes a million miles.
Yeah,
And
because
God,
coming from your background where you did everything and did all everything at the theater, I mean that attitude really did help. I mean you already had that built in, so I mean you knew all about hard work and how valuable it would be to learn about other parts of the project. Like you could sell tickets, you could seat people, you could do rigging, you could do lighting. I mean you already were adjusted.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really lucky in that way to to come in with a bunch of knowledge and to have the opportunity to learn from so many like fantastic people. But the third is more of like an acting thing. Um, but it's be honest, which sounds again a little bit cheesy, but in theater, and especially in black box theater, which is like a theater that doesn't necessarily have like a set seating area, everything is dynamic and kind of moves around. It's usually a very small, intimate space. And in those circumstances, you are so close to your audience that you have to be honest because if you're faking it, they can see you. They are so close that they can feel you next to them. So you owe it to them and to the performance to give it honesty and to put yourself into it. And in film, it's very strange because you have no interaction from an audience, right? Sometimes it's just like you, a director, a cameraman, and the sound guy in the room, and you don't get a lot of feedback. It's like, so quiet in the room, if a pin dropped, you could hear it. And there's still this need for honesty because even though no one is like proximal to you, you have this camera lens right there that is picking up, everything about you, your skin in 8K, all of those emotions in 8K. So bringing honesty, which is vulnerable and hard to do, but it's a necessary part.
Do you see the camera when you're in the middle of a scene? Do you see it? I mean, if you're having a heavy scene, it's an action scene or a dramatic scene or whatever, are you aware of the camera, or do you just block that out and just concentrate on your scene partner?
So it really does depend. There are scenes where you are able to do that. If you're able to do something, let's say if we were performing a scene right now and we were sharing a space, we were in the same room, and we had the chance to do like 8 takes. We could definitely lose the camera and just move around naturally because we would have the opportunity to get the things that we needed to get, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes in indie projects, it's just one guy with a camera. It's not like a whole film crew of people. So if you're running around doing a scene without any care to where the camera is, you can make it hard to get the footage that you need to get. So there is like a framework of viewing the camera and therefore the audience as another character who is there with you, as someone who you are interacting with, who you are showing, this scene to. So how do they need to see it? And so I think in that way you can be aware of the camera. Also, in situations like in Late Checkout, we had some insane gore. Insane. Oh God, it was awful, horrifying. And in those moments, it is like very technical. Like there's things. This needs to happen. We have A, B, C, and D all planned out. Those things all need to happen, and you need to be facing a certain way and playing to the camera to best display this effect that we're doing. So again, another circumstance where you're very like almost hyper aware of the camera being there. But then also when you're in a rewarding scene with a great acting partner, you do kind of just lose.
You lose. You're just locked in with their partner.
Yeah, exactly. You were there in the scene doing what the scene's dictating, but it is so visceral that you almost forget the purpose for which you were doing it. It is just happening.
I've said this before. I think a lot of people agree with this, but man, when I think of independent filmmaking, man, I think you always talk about innovations that are coming up on the field, like what's new, what's happening, what's the next hot thing. How can we make our movies better or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think without the doubt the key thing to really help independent film has been the digital camera. I mean,
Oh yeah.
you could do. I mean, that changed that game. I mean,
Oh yeah.
could you imagine before if you had a regular 35 millimeter on film? Could you imagine trying to do an eight scenes on an indie film with old school film camera? You wouldn't be able to do it. You couldn't do it. You couldn't afford it. You sit there like you have to get you have to get this down right, because it's so expensive. But digital cameras really has changed the game. I mean, hearing you say that, like, oh yeah, if we need to do eight takes, we could do 8 takes. It's like that's amazing.
8 takes would definitely be a luxury. That would be like a planned out thing to even. I mean, not even for the finite resource of film, but for the finite resource of time. Uh, but yes, I definitely agree. The freedom of digital. And Carlos Berber, who's doing House That Eats Flesh, shoots in 8K, and I mean, he's a very talented filmmaker, and he puts a lot of care into the shots he gets. And that, oh my God, it looks beautiful. It looks beautiful. Like it is so stunning in a way that film just has not been able to be before.
Now you're co-shooting both your features side by side, aren't you? You're working on both films side by side.
I wrapped for House. I wrapped for House in 2021, I believe.
Oh, okay. So is house done then? Or so I mean, okay, because I looked at it, it looked like it was both. I was still in production, so I was wondering if you were doing it side by side. Um, but yeah, have you had to have a project like that where you've had to work two different locations at once?
Well, I've never had to be two different places at once. That's impossible, Patrick.
Oh,
But no, I haven't. I've done a couple of film projects, but because I'm also a student and I also work and I also paint and do other creative things, I usually space those out pretty far. I only take things that I'm not working to, this isn't like my full-time job in the sense that like I do it one right after the other. So I haven't had any thing where I'm shooting two things at the same time. That would definitely be a challenge to like live in the character space of two different
characters.
people simultaneously. I applaud actors who can do that. That's
I know some of that. So I know some of the horror, some of the actors can do that. Some of the horror icons, so to speak. They'll come on in. Uh, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, your movie, Late Checkout, you have a. I'm going to tell this cast. This cast is absolutely insane, and then you can tell us about how it came to be. But your cast for Late Checkout, wow! I mean, you have Hannah Fierman from VHS.
who
You have
unfortunately was not is not in the movie. Uh, Hannah had an emergency pop up when we were filming. So she was not involved with the filming process. We're hoping to maybe get her involved still, but we actually replaced her with a young actress from North Carolina, Anna Clary, who was
okay.
very, very wonderful, incredible actress. Miss Hannah, I love Hannah so much. She's like one of my favorite people. She's hilarious. We did miss her greatly.
Let's see. The Forever Real King. Hello, how are you? Glad to see you. Oh, okay. So Hannah's not in the. I was gonna say because you still have Felicia Rose.
Felissa was probably one of the coolest people I'll ever meet ever.
Everybody thinks that, isn't it?
Yeah,
Everybody loves her.
yeah. Well, she's a really incredible woman. She was, definitely like the biggest star on set. One day she bought me flowers.
Wow.
I know. Well, I definitely didn't have to do that for my like work AD, and she like brought flowers to me. She was such a doll and so fun to work with. Such a vivacious actress, and she's definitely one of those who she just goes from project to project. She's like super in demand right now. And
She
what
is.
she
That's what I was
brought,
gonna say. She's got.
her
Yeah.
performance, man, she is. She's a really powerful performer.
And you got a couple other names in here that we talked about Bailey, but I also see too that Sherry Davis is in here, and Sherry's a really nice lady.
You know what? I don't know if Sherry was it. I don't know if Sherry made it. Sherry might
Uh,
not have made it. We need
oh,
to update our IMDb okay. We should have done that
Yeah,
before. We
I'm.
also
I do see Anna
drew,
Claire. I see. She plays
yes,
Ava.
yes. Anna was awesome. We also added Brandon Wall, who was a great performer. He stepped in to replace Drew Fortier from the Lucid, who you might have seen online, had like a medical emergency. But that's film, that's showbiz, baby. That's
Oh,
like, you know, a day before we film, something comes up, and you just kind of have to like, okay, let's figure out where we are, where we need to be, and then oftentimes it ends up being like exactly how it was meant to be. You know what I mean?
yep. Let's see. Forever King, doing well. Glad you're here. Let's see. Kevin, our friend Kevin, is mentioning the way independent films are marketed too. You couldn't do interviews like this format before digital cameras. Yeah, I mean that's one thing about this format, like streaming and social media. Like
Oh yeah.
doing this would be next to impossible because we can never contact each other,
Hell
and
yeah,
so
we'd have to like, you'd have to send me a letter and I'd have to write a letter back to you.
right, right.
Publish it in a magazine like caveman. I'm just kidding.
Uh, uh, one quick thing, Molly. Can you get a little more light in your room because it's getting
I
dark.
know, I'm disappearing.
Yeah,
Let's figure this out. I'm gonna turn my lamp sideways. Does
yeah.
that help?
We definitely want to see. They want to see Molly a lot more than they want to see me. Let me tell you.
I'm so, it's getting dark here. At first I was like blown out almost. Here, hold on 1 second.
Okay. Thank you guys in the chat for your support. I really appreciate it. Uh, oh yeah, echoes back. Echoes back. Yep. Just a reminder that after we're done at 10 o'clock, the midnight hour is up and on Hobbs Horrors channel. The Hobbs and Sean Blue Digital and Casey and Mr. Bones, Jennifer Tochi and Katie will be up, and so
I
thanks.
don't I like Mr. Bones instinctually.
Yeah, well, you picked a good one to like because he's my right hand man. He keeps my chats clean
Now,
and safe.
bony right hand man, the
Yeah.
skeletal right hand.
He's sort of like the Doc Severinsen of the group. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't think anybody remembers Doc Severinsen, but that's who he is. He just keeps everything cool and calm. Plus, Sean's in here. Anybody you see with a blue wrench and their names in blue, that means that they're here to help keep the chat clean. That way, because
Oh.
sometimes you get sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes you'll either get a bot attack or you get a troll, and so they're there to make sure that doesn't happen.
I haven't
We
been
have.
trolled yet, but I have started getting a lot of marriage proposals, so
Oh,
that's been fun.
congratulations!
I
When's the
know.
big date?
You know, I have to make like an Excel spreadsheet or something to like manage them as they come in. I'm sure after the movie comes out, it will maybe there'll be like an influx, and
Excuse
then
me.
I'll have them fight to the death, Mad Max style, in the Thunderdome.
And I have to say, our good friend Brene is also a good wrench too. She is. She's an excellent wrench. I'm lucky. I don't. it's one of those things where my chat is so comfortable for all my guests. I have such good people, because it's a trust thing. You trust them to keep a room clean and safe. And so Brene and Sean and David's, who's not here, and of course Mr. Bones. They allow me to concentrate fully on the guests, and so I'm able to sit here and talk to you, and I don't have to worry about someone over there being rude or saying rude things. I don't have to worry about that. And
Good. No
it's
one
sort of
ever should.
it's like being on set. It's like you're a screenwriter or a director or actor. You don't want to be bothered by outside influences, right? So that's why you have people there to make sure that things stay safe on the set. A good working environment. Um,
Absolutely.
uh, so tell us about late checkout. Where did the idea come from, Molly? Was this something that
So late checkout is initially Josh's baby. Like Josh um, has written a couple things recently that he wanted to get moving. And I approached him because I really liked working with him on House, and I wanted to work with him again. So I asked, what do you have in the works? How can I get involved? And he gave me the script for Late Checkout. And the initial script definitely had similarities to the final one, but it was a different story. And I agreed to come on to that as an actress, and then I got involved as an assistant director, and then we did some restructuring uh, of the cast and of the script, which I ended up being involved in. And as we started collaborating on just minor changes on the script, we kind of discovered that there was it's like a pistachio nut. Okay, so stay with me here, everyone. Pistachio nut. You've seen them, you've enjoyed them, you've eaten 50 of them and regretted it. We've all been there.
Oh yeah.
So there's the little shell, and then you crack it open, and then there's a delicious little expensive green nut inside. So I think the first script and our first interaction with Late Checkout, when we first started playing with it, we were still toying with the shell. And then once we started working together and collaborating on changing the story and adding elements that, Josh is the master of gore. Josh is, for the sweetest man ever, who he really could be the equity. He's one of the sweetest dudes ever. He can come up with some very twisted things. He really brings it, the gore and the creepiness and the tension. And then who has never known when to shut the fuck up ever, period, since day one, definitely had a lot to add for dialogue and for interpersonal relationships and kind of changing characters to have purpose and meaning, a greater purpose and meaning within the context of the story. So I kind of came in and was able to change and amplify what Josh had already started with. It was super awesome. I was like,
It is very hard for a horror movie. It is very hard for it because of the demands on it. It's very hard to develop characters, isn't it?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, because in a larger sense, anyone in a horror movie is just cannon fodder. Like, we are just loading you up to fire you at a buggy and pointy knife. So I personally, as a young woman, wanted to bring in some elements that were important to me, dealing with, I'm a queer woman, so we wanted to kind of include a powerful queer narrative. We wanted to address misogyny, and we wanted to kind of take the classic ensemble horror movie structure, but amplify it in different ways that show how our priorities have changed in the world, right? So, like in 80s horror movies, oftentimes your final girl is this blushing virgin, and she only survives because she, doesn't let a man touch her and is very book smart and what have you. And we kind of wanted to change what the final girl looked like. We wanted to reconceptualize what justifies the final girl. We wanted to use the best part of horror, the murders, to kind of condemn other things like misogyny.
Yeah, no, you know what? I'm okay. You know what? I know a lot of horror fans. Horror fans will sit there and say, "Well, I go to a horror film to not be preached to." I'm not here for that. I'm here for the for the slash and the dash. But you know what? I just anybody that just goes to horror just to see just the kills, right? They're missing the whole point. They're missing the whole. They're missing the whole point of horror. They're missing the whole point.
Funny take that it kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you ever watched the show Parks and Recreation, but there's this character, Ron Swanson, who's very like this man's man who doesn't like poetry, doesn't like anything like that. And he says, I hate metaphors. That's why my favorite book is Moby Dick. It's just about a man who hates a fish, which is obviously hilarious because Moby Dick is this really deep metaphor. And I think it's funny when people say, like, oh, well, now we add all of this, this subtext to horror and we make it all preachy. Baby, it's always been preaching. It's always been preaching something.
Yeah, he just haven't been. To me, it's like I saw this one movie. It's funny, Molly, because I saw this one movie, right? It's an independent horror film. It was really strange. It's one of the stranger ones I've seen, and it was supposedly about this killer scarecrow, right? But the director, his cast, right? His cast that he had, all the characters, right? They are all so likable. I mean, most horror films, you got the tropes.
Want them all to die.
You got the bad girl, you got the
yeah.
rebel boy, you got the poet, you got the geek or whatever, right? You got all the archetypes, right? But in this movie, everybody in the cast was super nice. And the movie went on and on and on. And it's just like, all of a sudden you're realizing that these people are soon going to become fodder. But the thing is you actually cared about them. You're going like, I like every one of these characters. It was almost like the director went like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble here. So, because he has to make some of the characters unlikable so people can watch it and go, not feel bad. And so he tried at the last minute to make his couple of his characters like assholes. But it was too late. It was too late, because he wrote his character. He really liked his characters.
But I love that. And I love, like,
me too. I love that too. I'm just sitting there going like, man, this, and when they started, to die, you actually felt that. You actually felt emotion for that. I think a good horror film, that's what it does. If a good horror film will bring emotion to you, you will see that person die on screen and have empathy for them. Anybody who goes to horror just to sit there and root for the Michael Myers or the Jason or whatever, they're missing the point of what horror films are. Absolutely. The real horror is feeling. You're not seeing the movie through the eyes of the killer. You're seeing the movie through the eyes of the victims because they're the ones that are suffering from it. That's horror. That's what makes it scary.
I got to work with Elsie Holt, my character in Late Checkout, Addison. Her boyfriend is Matt, who's played by the wonderful Elsie Holt. He's been in a number of things. He was in Big Fish, and he was in Dark Circles, which is soon to come out. He did the VHS 2, and he's known. He did Phantom Fun World from Tori Jones recently. Known as being just the spookiest guy, just terrifying. You see footage of him, sends chills up your spine. He is a scary, scary dude. But in this role, he's we're in a relationship, and I thought that we had such great chemistry and had such a great time on set. Everyone did, but we really fostered that. Oh my God, people are going to be really fucking horrified to see what happens to us because we didn't do anything wrong. And I love that. I love thinking of I don't know if you saw any of the behind the scenes pictures of Late Checkout, but there's a great picture of some of the crew watching the deaths that happened on set. And they just look horrified. And if our crew look horrified, I can't wait to horrify you, Patrick.
I can't wait to see it too. I'm so
happy. We're gonna break your
heart. I'm so happy for you, Molly. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. And when is your release date going to be coming out? Do you have a release date yet, or not?
No idea. I have no idea. I'm not editing it, so I'm sorry. I can plead ignorance here because I don't know. I'm not doing the fun final step stuff, but I know we're gonna do like festival circuit.
Right.
Keep your eyes peeled for that trailer soon because I've been seeing some footage floating around. And it's good. It looks
Uh,
great. Jared Lewis is
I,
a great
though, but I want to talk a
actor.
little bit before I let you go here. But I want to touch business with you a little bit because I'm curious. But I want to talk a little bit more about, more about your experience on the set of that and a couple of your other movies because, what was it like to actually like to come up there and actually direct? I mean, you're assistant director. I mean, had you been taking notes because you've done a couple of short films. It's Here and which
Yeah.
you wrote and Hexed. Now, when you were on those two sets, were you taking notes about what the directors were doing, or did you ask Josh? Like, did you ask him like, how do you prepare to do your films? Like, does he
So
storyboard?
again, I was really blessed because I grew up around a direct. Like my father is a brilliant director, and I grew up around uh, people who are doing that sort of work with theatrics, with doing more of the puppet mastery than the being the puppet. Um, so I came into it with a grasp of what a director does. Now, being an assistant director is a little different because Josh is definitely like the captain of the ship. I'd say he's like it's comparable to he's the CEO and I'm the manager, right?
Right,
So he is guiding the boat, and I am just like making sure all the crews are doing what they need to be doing, that sort of stuff, like making sure everything functions. He's my or I'm his Mr. Bones, right?
right.
Um,
Okay, all right.
but because it was such an amazing set where everyone was just so open to collaborating, to the process of collaborating, which might seem like a dumb thing to say because, like, obviously, if you're on a movie set together, you would think that everyone would be open to collaboration. But sometimes there's,
No,
people
sometimes.
who do, yeah, people who have it in their head. This is how we're going to do it, and people in positions of power can have their vision and just want it to be that way, which is understandable and great. And we love someone with a vision, right?
Yeah.
But it was also super rewarding to get this chance to play around with things, and everyone had input. Everyone's ideas were considered. There were things on set that scenes that I wrote that I took the lead with directing because I wrote the dialogue. And there were things that Josh took the lead with, and then there were things that the actors themselves said, hey, hold on a minute because I see what you're saying, but doing my dramaturgy work, doing my process, I've actually conceptualized this another way, and they've guided us. Like it was such a open environment that
No,
that everyone was
no, I'm
contributing.
looking at Josh's work here. This is his second movie he's directed. The
Yeah.
first was House, and so had he done any other directing himself before this? Had he done any short films? Be
So Josh jumped right in with features. Josh is incredible in that sense. Like he just made the damn thing happen. I think Josh also has a background in theater and theatrical productions and directing things in a theatrical sense. So we both kind of knew it's the same craft with different mediums, I guess if that makes sense. Like it's like if you had done watercolors for 10 years and then you switch to acrylics. It's like I know how to do this. It's just the different tools that I'm using to get it done.
Now I'm looking here because I'm looking here and it says he co-directed The House That Eats Flesh. There's another person that helped him out a little bit.
Carlos, yeah, Carlos
Yeah.
Berber was our director of photography or cinematographer and co-director because he always brings a lot of vision. He's someone who if Carlos has a third eye and it's a camera lens.
That's a good thing. See, I have to sit there and say I'm very nervous when there's a first time director, and I mean a first time director that also has also written the script. It very rarely does that ever work. Never ever works all the way. They struggle. It's like almost like an actor director. When he has to direct himself. That first time
Totally.
director, yeah, they always. I've reviewed hundreds of movies, and let me tell you, I've reviewed a lot of movies with a first time director who's written his own script. Rarely does it ever
So
go
that's like
smooth.
one of the awesome things about working with Josh is that he uh, is so open to, like he always brings it, like I said, with gore. He introduces really strong female characters. That's something I always love about his scripts. Um, he has funny, quippy moments, and he knows what his point A is and what his point B is. But he is so open to negotiating the means of travel from point A to point B. If that makes sense. Like
Yeah,
he
no, no.
he really lets.
I think the best directors are ones who you got to have a strong hand to be a director. I mean, you're going to find this out if you become are you thinking about directing full time pretty soon? You
Oh
thinking about
yeah,
what the next
oh
what
yeah.
3 or 4 projects you're going to direct something yourself?
I would
So
love to
you
do it.
so you already know already by just this experience here right now, you've already, that's why I was going to ask you, are you writing and writing down what's going on? I mean, are you writing your own notebook? I mean, literally writing it down. So like when you do, get your first project, you'll at least have a plan. You'll have an outline of what to do and how to do it.
So it's I'm not literally writing anything down, and I think because so much changes. We see things that we would do, we see things we would do, but maybe tweak it a little bit. We see things that behaviors we want to totally avoid, and then all those things are tossed into a bag and flipped around. Like it's hard with film to make that definitive list because it is such a changing environment. But I'm definitely like I have things that I want to try and things that I definitely want to avoid seeing from. It's interesting because not only do I get a perspective, working on late checkout, I was on the production team, but I'm also an actor, so I get to be buddies with a bunch of actors who also have their input of
Yeah.
what they like and what they don't like out of production teams. It's
I mean,
been
what a great training ground for you, right?
oh
I
yeah.
mean, because now you're acting, and now you're also assistant directing. I mean, it is a perfect training ground because it isn't easy to do. I don't think anybody can be expected to walk onto a set and immediately hit. Not only are you going to be directing, but you're going to be acting as well. A lot of people just can't do that right off the bat. They
No.
have to work their way in slowly, in order to do that. So I, you know,
It definitely helped that I was working with something that I had a hand in, like
yeah.
writing it and working with something that included my perspective and Josh's perspective. And Josh is someone who I consider to be a close friend of mine. So the way that his brain works is like very familiar to me. So working with something so challenging and new, but so familiar at the same time. I can't even tell. It was surreal to have things that we wrote done in person by these fucking incredible actors and actresses. Like it was mind blowing. Even though I had read the scene, you know, 100 times, it just lights up, and all these new synapses start firing when you get it on its feet.
Now I have a question for you too. I have a lot of. I see that. But when you leave a set, I heard you something you mentioned earlier in one of your answers, so I'll ask that. So when you get off the set, do you like to come home and paint? To relax, to unwind, to let go of the day, let go of the characters you're playing. Is that
Yeah,
your
so I think more than anything, I just need to come down from like creativity. That it's so nice when you're on an indie set, especially because like we filmed a whole feature length movie in like 12 days, So that's like you wake up and you go to sleep and you sleep for a couple hours and wake up and you do it again all day, every day. Every moment is surrounded by people. Every moment is creating and contributing to this process of creation. So then you're kind of cold turkeyed out of that when you wrap, right? And then you're back home to like Oh, I
So,
have very, a considerably less amount of responsibilities now. So coming back, I needed to do creative stuff, just redirect that energy somewhere. I
and
was still all like hyped up on filming every day. So I've done like a couple of pieces. Actually, the first piece I did, I then painted over, and I'm doing a new piece now. But it's been interesting unwinding from that. Because, like I said, that was probably one of the best creative experiences I will ever get to have, just in terms of how well the team worked together, the friendships that were forged there, and the product that we created. Oh,
right,
definitely within the top three.
right, right. You got one of your pieces that you could show us real quick.
Nothing that's done. Hold on, let's see. So I have like a fun little look here. Shoot backwards. So this is okay. This is what I'm working on now. It's not done, and you can see it's kind of like
Okay.
textured,
Uh-huh.
lots
That
of
looks good.
layering. But this is one of mine.
That's nice. That's
a
nice.
little Dolly Parton action. What else?
What do you what do you where do you go when you paint, when you're painting? Where do you go in your mind?
Oh, I spend, if I'm being completely honest, I spend so much time um, in my imagination that I find grounding. I find painting is really an opportunity for grounding. So I try to be exactly where I am.
Uh, we hear you.
I see a question there. Are you able
Oh,
to write right
oh,
after finishing a project, or do you take a break? I think, again, sorry to keep bragging about my late checkout friends, but after you're surrounded by a bunch of insanely talented, attractive, creative people, you're just like overflowing with ideas. I think it's super easy to get stuff out as soon as you finish. But does that mean you're gonna like nurture it and bring it to full form? I don't know. Maybe the idea that you really nurture will have to come a little bit later when you're like done writing the high from the first project. But I was so impressed by the amount of ideas that were being thrown around on that set. And we're a production team that definitely wants to work together again and produce something together again. So we're already kind of tossing ideas around for different scripts that we've all been thinking of. That's like myself, Josh Graves, Darren Lewis, Derek Warely, who's an incredible effects artist and also an incredible writer and also an incredible human. We've all been kind of toying with different ideas of things that we're going to do next and what we're going to produce next.
and like I said before, beginning of the interview, I mean, you're in the right spot for it right now, for definitely, Molly. I mean, Atlanta is going to be just popping. I mean,
I'm super excited.
yeah, it's going to be. I think hopefully. I mean, if you get a chance to do something bigger, I mean, are you going to go on auditions for feature roles with some bigger films, or are you just going to stay for right now? Or are you going to stay in the indie route?
I really love indie. I like I said, just having the power that comes from that independence. I find that very rewarding. Um, but that being said, I love to collaborate and I love to be there for someone else's vision. So I think that there's things that I'm getting offers for now that I might do, and I definitely stay open to the possibility of working on bigger things that I wear less hats while doing, uh, because they're so much bigger than indie productions. But
Right. Yeah. I
I,
mean,
I'd be open to that, sure.
it'd be exciting to see what if someone calls from a bigger movie or studio project or
Mhm.
whatnot. it'd be exciting to see what you could do on that, and take it to the next level.
Totally.
And plus, not only that, but you gain the experience. Because I've talked to a lot of artists. What they've said this. They said, they started off on bigger projects. Like they maybe even if they're featured walk-ons, but what they got to do is they got to work a real set. Like a
Yeah.
network or a
And
studio set.
it's all about networking. Really.
Yeah, and they got to work on that, and then they took that experience and they just took it with them when they went to do their indie sets, because they saw how a pro set is run, and then they went on and applied the same lessons to an indie set. I think that's an opportunity that hopefully someone will notice you and do that and give you that opportunity. I love to see that happen for you. And Josh sounds like Josh sounds like an interesting cat too. Sounds like he's got a good head on his shoulders. So it looks like you guys.
The thing about our team is we just love horror. So we're just doing something that we love and honoring a community that we not only respect and rely on, but that we're a part of. So it's been super fun.
I got one last question for you, and well, I'm gonna let you. Sure. Here's the question. Feel free to drop questions in the chat about if you want me to ask Molly if you have any questions for Molly, please drop them in the chat and we'll go through them. And John's got one question here for you. He says, who would you want to work with if given a chance? Acting wise and directing wise, who would you like to work with?
Well, all I can think is two people. Okay, so I would love to be directed by Olivia Wilde or Sam Raimi. Either, both, simultaneously. Don't care which way it happens. I would be super down for either of those. Working with an actor. Florence Pugh.
Okay. Yeah.
She is so fun. She seems so bright. She seems so fun. Zendaya seems incredible to work with. Really rewarding scene partner.
I'm a big Zendaya fan.
God, I love her. God, I love her.
She's so elegant.
Yeah, she just has so much wisdom in her. She just seems incredibly deep. Yeah, I love her. And I guess, yeah. I mean, can that be it? Can those be my?
No, you can have more. Yeah, give us some more. Who would you like to work with?
Oh man, I would love to work with Elsie again because that was a lot of fun. Him and Cheney Morrow were two actors who I really enjoyed working with. Felissa also, God, she was incredible. But if we're talking like dream people to work with, Olivia Colman. I'm just naming a bunch of women. Maybe that's.
Sure.
I'm trying to think of like who's like an awesome male actor besides Bruce Campbell, which that was implied when I said Sam Raimi. So.
Right. Yeah. Right. Of course.
Benedict Cumberbatch, or however you say his name.
Who was it?
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah.
I've seen him in a couple things, and he seems very impressive. But yeah, for directors, Olivia Wilde and Sam Raimi, that would be a peak experience.
There's so much out there. I like Benedict too. I watched him in his Sherlock Holmes series. That's top drawer. That is top drawer. He
was so good in that. I love that.
Really good.
They've always done well casting.
Yeah, I think he's one of the better. He's definitely one of the better actors working today. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Molly. I'm gonna. Yes, I was just gonna say thank you for saying that, John, because this is what I was gonna say. Thank you for spending some time with us. I want to thank you for coming out and hanging out with us. And I can't wait to talk to you again once Late Checkout comes out. I'll probably have you. I want you and Josh and Bailey to come on out and come back and visit us.
Oh, we
Would
would
be,
love that.
that would be
We
a
would
lot
love
of
that.
fun. Um,
Thank you so
uh,
much for hanging out. This was
no,
awesome.
it
You
was
guys were
great.
awesome. It was
I want to thank the chat once again. You guys absolutely just crushed it this week. Thank you so much for your support. I couldn't do this without you guys. You guys make it all worth it. Hi, Cass. How are you? Um, uh, uh, Thank you again. Yes, thank you for spending the time with us. You guys in the chat, you guys rock. Let me tell you really quick what's going on real fast before I let everybody go. So again, tonight at 10 o'clock on Hobbs Horror's channel, Hobbs Horror, the midnight hour starts at 10 o'clock with Hobbs, Casey, Mr. Bones, Katie, Jennifer Tochi, and Sean Blue Digital at 10 p.m. And then next week we have Sean Rappaport or Kyle Rappaport coming on Sunday at 5 p.m. And next Tuesday, we'll be having writer Michael Goldberg will be here with us. And he has written a book about James Wilsey, who was a very great musician, guitarist for the, I just spoke about. There's Kyle right there. Kyle Rappaport, that's our guest on Sunday at 5 p.m. Kyle Rappaport from Sharkula. I love bad shark movies. I love them. I love them. And he wrote a book about James Wilsey, who played in the band The Avengers. So he'll be here next Tuesday, and we'll talk about his new book. All right, I will see you guys soon. And
Bye.
yeah, ciao, peace. Stay right where you're at, Molly.